Welcome to This Sustainable Life, Nature and Spirituality. Today's guest is Verena Debnar. Verena is an interspecies communicator. We met at the end of last year on a course we both did with Michael Neal based on the 3 principles, also known as the inside-out understanding. The 3 principles explain that we don't experience life as it truly is. Rather, we live in the feeling of our thinking about life. We experience our thoughts, not life directly. And when we're not enjoying our life, all we need to remember is that we are most probably paying way too much attention to our thoughts rather than giving space for inner guidance to come through and living from that more peaceful, loving place. So, hi Verena, how are you doing today?
Hi, Michelle. I'm all good, thank you.
Well, just to explain to our listeners, I have a cat right here, and she's coming and going across the keyboard, so it's keeping it entertaining for us. So as I mentioned in the intro that we met on Michael Neal's 3 Principles course, my question to you today, to start off with, was how has your life changed since finding the 3 principles and exploring them? And has your life changed? And if yes, how? And what could you share with the listeners?
Gosh, that's a lot of questions. So what was the first one again? If my life has changed. For sure. You know, I followed Michael Neal, like he was the one who introduced me to this understanding of the 3 principles. Mm-hmm. And I followed him for a number of years until I felt that something was changing and he was mentioning the 3 principles. And I liked his way before, like with doing all this NLP stuff, and it was a bit like a psychological ninja move that he did. And that was really, really cool. But what changed? You know, it's really hard to say because so much has changed. And I don't know if it's because of the 3 principles, but they definitely play a major role. So I guess one of the major things is that I am more patient with myself and other people, because it's easier with other people, I have to say. Because I see that, you know, we do what makes sense to us. And what makes sense to us given the thinking that we have in the moment. And that's very different for everyone. You know, like for how the world looks to me is different to my partner and to you and to every single person on earth. And what has changed over the years is that I'm looking more and more through the eyes of every person in front of me. And when they are doing things that I don't understand, it's like, okay, I know, well, it makes sense to them 100%. It's 100% aligned with their view of the world, with their values. And yeah, I guess it's one of the biggest things that I learned, that I am learning.
Wow, it's actually quite funny to hear you, because it seems for you it's made a huge difference in helping you understand other people. And when I think back of my own experience, it's been an eye-opener to understanding myself a lot better, more. Yeah. Not sure which is the best word. And that's actually interesting to hear you. Obviously, yes, when I start realizing that I'm reacting to my thinking instead of the present moment and the person in front of me, I become more aware of myself. And then occasionally I also step back and go, okay, if I'm being triggered by the other person, I really have to take a step or two or three backwards to realize, oh, they're just acting on their thinking, but it doesn't happen to me in the moment. Definitely not yet. Let's hope one day, yes. But for you, it seems to be, yeah, it's really helped you understand others. And I think that's cool. I'm looking forward to getting to that.
Yeah, no, well, it's also interesting for me, to see it through your eyes, because I guess in a way I have done that because I'm the closest to myself. Probably I've done that automatically, and it was easier to, yeah, because I know myself in a way. But with other people, there's always an unknown component in there, and then it's easier to just see, okay, well, they are doing that. I wouldn't do that, but it makes sense to them. Okay.
Well, it's really lovely that you have that distance to be able to understand that about other people and not take their actions personally.
Well, at times I surely do. I feel it, Nonetheless, I don't know. It's probably like I have what I call my neutral channel. So I am reacting 100%, but then I have my neutral channel that is there not reacting and kind of gives me a different perspective while I'm reacting. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, at some level it does. It's actually quite fascinating to see how at one level we all very human and very similar, yet like talking to you now, we can function very differently. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Food for thought. But as I mentioned, you are an interspecies communicator. If you could just explain that to the listeners, people who don't know what that is, quickly. And then maybe also being an interspecies communicator, I'm really curious, what have you learned? What is it that you would most dearly want to share with people, having learned that skill?
Yeah, so interspecies communication for me is we are all communicating all the time because we are all connected. Everything is connected. And on some level, we are more aware with the communication, like you and I are now verbally communicating. Mm-hmm. And on other levels, we might not be so aware. And animals and plants and even elements, for example, they communicate. They are very aware of this other level of communication. You can call it telepathic communication, for example, or energetic communication. And that's what I am doing, so to speak. That's how I'm communicating with animals and plants, and then also, things that don't look so animated, like elements, or you can also communicate with minerals, with anything really, with anything. That is so fascinating. So, but it might be easier to think about it with animals, for example. So we have this telepathic communication that we as human beings also have between one another and also with the animals, which is on this energetic level. And that is beyond the verbal communication and beyond body language. I experience it mainly through feeling, but also through inner pictures, or also inner noises, or inner communications that are audible, but mainly through feelings.
Okay.
And I experience them as like, I often explain it as an energy package. So I get a whole package, like what I like to do is when I'm communicating with an animal to just, like in a human interaction, to introduce myself, to get to know them. So not to bombard them with questions or anything. No, just to say hello and see how they are and if they are open to a conversation or not. And then just, let it develop and see what they want to share. So this is my base. And I get like these energy packages. And so these packages, they have they consist of the whole thing of these feelings, of images, of sounds, of memories, for example, as well.
Okay.
And then it's on me to unpack them and to understand what the animal wants to share with me. And in my understanding, that is also why if you have 10 different interspecies communicators or animal communicators, you will get 10 different answers for, if they communicate with the same animal.
Yes.
Because everyone has, as we said before, everyone has a different view of the world and a different angle of looking at things. And that's why we give different meaning and we have a different understanding. And, like we are now talking, and for you, it's easier to talk to the listeners and say, well, no, I see it this way. Or if I explain something about you, you could then explain, no, I meant that and such. But the animals, since they don't have this verbal language as we do,
yes,
it's if people are not trained or used to communicate with them, then they don't understand what the animal is saying, and then they just hear what their communicator is saying.
Yes.
So, in a human to human interaction, you can verify or say, no, I meant it differently. But the animal, it's a bit difficult for the animal to, respond to what, for example, what I'm relying to you, and, for somebody else who doesn't have this connection to the animal to verify that.
Yes. Yeah, they can't correct. If you didn't relay the message that they wanted to relay, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah. So if the other person, who I'm relaying the message to, if they don't have a direct understanding with the animal, and usually they don't, that's why they go to an interspecies communicator. Yeah, so
I also find it interesting that you get whole packages, because when I communicate, it's very visual. It's like a movie and a feeling. So yeah, I know we're all different, like you said, and like we mentioned in the beginning. And being able to communicate that in this way, is there a specific message you'd like to tell the people who are not aware that we can, and it's actually pretty easy? Is there anything that you feel moved to share, or?
Yeah, to just be open to this possibility that you have a direct communication going with your animal already, because you do, and that you can become aware of that more. And when you do, and it's, as you say, it's actually, the beginnings are really easy. Then I think it's becoming a bit of an art. Well, life in itself is an art, I think. But, just to be aware of what is already happening between you and your animal, that is priceless. Because I really see them as treasures. They can help us to become aware of so many things in our life to expand our consciousness. And that in return will help them, because it's like an upward spiral. Then we understand them better, and then they have a more joyful life experience, because our animals, they change so easily. When we change, they change really easily. So that in itself, I find really inspiring to see how quickly animals, we perceive something as a problem, and they can adapt, or they will adapt so quickly to their, if anything is changing in their environment. For example, if a cat doesn't want to use the toilet, there is a reason for that. Mm-hmm. And if we manage to be open enough and to really understand our cat, and not only say, okay, I want you to use the toilet, and if you don't, then you're wrong. No, if we understand that there is a dynamic for the cat, maybe, it's the smell in the toilet that she doesn't like, or she might be scared, or whatever, Mm-hmm. If we understand that, and then we can negotiate with them as well. So it's really a two-way communication. And that means we have to change, because we have to be open to this possibility that our cat has a reason for not using the toilet. And when we are really open and understanding towards our cat, chances that our cat will change are much higher. It's not 100% at all, because they have their free will. But it's really the chances that they want to also improve the how we live together, they are much higher, and or we might find a totally different solution for it, like maybe putting the toilet somewhere else where she feels safe, or I don't know, maybe she can be outside longer, or whatever, what's going to come from the conversation that we have. But the thing is, we also have to change, and if we change, they adapt so quickly and easily. I mean, it's amazing.
Like you're saying, basically it's seek first to understand, and then that improves communication both ways. And I mean, it's the same with humans. If you first try and understand other people, and then when we understand the other person's point of view and find their reasons, then usually it's much easier to find solutions to any perceived problem.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's also so valuable if we have an animal in our life, because usually with the animals in our lives, it's easier than with other humans. Because animals, I don't know, they have a different, we see them differently. And animals, they don't have an agenda like we humans often have, and they don't hold grudges. Animals don't hold grudges. And they, like humans, get mad about something that was 20 years ago.
And we don't let it go.
Yeah. Exactly. We're holding on to it. And animals are just really different there.
More people learned interspecies communications, and ultimately it would help the health of nature globally.
For sure. Not just nature. I mean, everything is nature, basically. But specifically, if more people learned about interspecies communication, well, the human-to-human communication is interspecies communication as well. And that is so central in our everyday life. And, we, as in humans, I guess we are the only species that is using our free will to go against nature, in a way, to do things that don't make sense if we saw that everything is connected. Everything is connected. And a lot of things would not make sense if we really saw that, like polluting the rivers, and I don't know, like it doesn't make sense. It's like cutting the branch that we are sitting on. It's like, it doesn't make sense. And if more people became interspecies communicator, that would change a lot, because then everyone would see more and more what we really are doing to ourselves. We think we do it to other people, or I don't know to what, but we're doing it to ourselves in the end.
It was so beautiful the way you were saying that it's a virtuous cycle when you start doing interspecies communicating, because everybody benefits from doing that and seeing the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah,
we should find a way to have it taught at school.
That would be awesome.
I often think about that and thinking, and what if it were taught like another subject at school? Because when you learn to love something, then you're not going to destroy it. And when you realize that you're a part of it, well, it just doesn't make sense to destroy yourself. Find a way to connect humans again to nature. Well, not connect to nature again, but just remember that we are part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about your interaction in nature? Has that also changed? The way, like before you consciously used interspecies communication, and now do you behave differently with and in nature?
For sure. For sure. And I'm learning every day, and I'm seeing more and more. I am becoming more and more aware of this connection with everything. So, for example, every day when I'm going for a walk, or I'm outside every day, and I like to bring gifts for nature, like part of my meal, of my breakfast, or whatever, to just show my appreciation and to give thanks as well. And just by doing that, I'm becoming more and more aware also of the spirits in nature and how they respond to that. So this has changed a lot. And it's such a rich playground out there. And it's, talking about it, I'm out of words, because there's so much. Just when I'm going there in my mind, it's like I'm flooded with all these feelings and experiences. It's like, wow, so it definitely is changing how I see the world every day, and it's expanding and expanding, even if it's just a little bit. And it's not like I can pinpoint it and put my finger on what has changed, but I can feel it, and this is actually what is often called the right side of the brain. So often in psychology or scientific whatever scientific something, talking about the left side and the right side of the brain, where the left side is more associated with the logical side of our mind, which is big trained in our upbringing, when we are going to school, left side. And then we have the right side of the brain, that is really our holistic thinking. It's the creative side, where we see connections, where the left side is more the linear tuck 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 part. The other one is the interconnection, and the, I could also say, more the more female way of looking at life, and the connections. And so this side of the brain, and I often feel like I'm on that side of the brain, it's really difficult to put words to things, and it's more because there are not these hard edges, and that's why I find it often difficult to really explain my experiences and to say, okay, that's what's different now. Because I'm making all these funny gestures with my hands. It's like expansion, and it's broader. And
if you could maybe find a couple of words to express the emotions that you're feeling, so expansion and
expansion and movement and connection. Everything is connected, and there is no time. It's all happening in one moment.
Presence.
And it's the endless moment that we are living in. We have these experiences, and things change, and we change, our bodies change, nature changes, the sun, it's changing, and then we have night, it's day and night, but it's all happening in one moment in time. And we are so creative that we can compartmentalize it in a way, petition it. We can say, okay, this is a day, this is a night, this is a week, this is an hour, and we can use these concepts for example, to make an appointment. So we made an appointment to chat, to record this podcast, and we can do that. And I find that fascinating, with something that doesn't really exist. That's also how I experience what I experience in the communications with animals, for example. They have a different experience of time than we do. So they are more in this, not more, they are in this moment, one moment of time. And if we explain, they can understand days, or also minutes probably, but it's more, like when we can explain, okay, the sun is coming up 5 times and it's getting dark 5 times, and then I'll be back, for example.
Yes.
But they are really living in this moment. Yeah, as we do, but often we don't know. At least I often don't know.
Yeah, our thinking pops us out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our left brain, so to speak.
I was just wondering, because hearing and seeing you talk about how you feel when you're in nature and experiencing it, if you were to take up a little sustainability challenge, which I had spoken to you earlier on, is there anything that comes to mind that you would be willing to do at your option? So coming from this feeling that you have of expansion, is there something that comes to mind that you could do to act sustainably, like take one behavior, one action that you do personally, and something small? It's not about saving the world or anything. Something you could do in your own life that you're willing to do, as long as you're willing to do it for. It could be a couple of days or weeks or months.
Well, what comes to me is, just sitting somewhere 5 minutes and just taking in nature.
That sounds good.
Yeah. First I thought in the morning, when the sun is coming up, but it could be any time of the day, really. But outside somewhere, and just like a sitting spot or something, and just sitting there for 5 minutes and do nothing. Really a challenge for me.
Well, doing nothing or connecting to, I mean, you say that when you're out in nature, you actually expand and feel all these feelings. So I don't know, you can call it nothing, but it sounds more like everything.
Yeah, it is. And usually, I have something in mind. So I'm walking, or I want to connect with a certain plant or something, but that I'm just, just being. That's a challenge. That is a challenge for me.
Okay, well, that sounds interesting. And how long would you be willing to do this for? Like, how long do you think you would need to do this before you can say if there's been a change, or how long, how many days or weeks until you can say, okay, and now I have experienced this long enough that I can share my experience with people?
Well, what's coming to mind is 1 week.
Okay.
And that might sound short, but for me, it's like, then I can evaluate, then I can already, it's not like, okay, now I stop, but then that's already, okay, just reflecting, probably. That's a good word for it. After a week, I can reflect and see what has changed. And if then I would like to take it on further or something, but that's what's coming to mind, a week.
A week. No, of course, obviously, if after a week you've been hating every moment of it, that's not the definition of sustainable. So, like, in my opinion, a sustainable action has got to be sustainable out for the environment, for the world, but also for yourself. I mean, we have to honor external nature and deep nature.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So 5 minutes a day for a week, and then we get together for another chat so you can share with everyone how that experience went.
Sounds good.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing you again.
Me too. What I will have experienced by then.
I'm really curious. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up for today, and we'll hear from you again in a week.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.
Bye.